Technical difficulty cannot get in the way of Strong Dad June. When it's throwing all kind of shit at you, you just push the shit away and you plow through. Let's go. We got Trey Quinn, the creator of Strong Dad June, in the house tonight. Y'all aren't going to want to miss it. Let's get it. Aquarian Anarchy is back. So he probably didn't know that this was going to become a quote that would be etched in history when he said it. But when I interviewed Trey earlier this week, he said this very apropos quote for tonight. We are the straight arrow. Be the best arrowhead that you can be, and the generations to come will have a better chance to fly straight. And that is what we're going to try to do tonight. We are going to try to lead the young men and the older men and everybody else to just make the most of this month of June. It's Father's Day next weekend, like not this upcoming weekend, but the next weekend. And so all June, we aren't even talking about anything else. We are just promoting Strong Dad June, and we have to start with promoting the one and only The Strong Dad on Twitter. You may know him as Black Hotep or as Trey Quinn. But here he is. He joins us tonight. Trey, welcome. Thanks again for coming back. And how you been, man?
I've been excellent. But real quick, we got to give credit to Hotep Jesus, because he gave us the idea by saying Father's Month, and then told me that the inspiration was my name, from the Strong Dad Protocol on my YouTube. So I think we kind of all came together in our separate minds and said, this is how we will set the tone. So I give us all credit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's kind of how some of this stuff happens, right? When you start to, what's that old saying about, like, you're as smart as your friends, you're as strong as your friends, you go in the direction, you're as successful as your friends. So if you hang around a bunch of, I don't know, simps and incels and losers and people who complain and whine and are blaming everybody else for stuff all the time, that's where you're going to end up being. And if you associate yourself with a bunch of other people who are like, no, get off your ass and get to work, we got stuff to do, we got stuff to build, this sort of stuff is just natural, right?
That's right.
Yeah. For sure. And so dive in a little bit, man. I was really impressed by your first couple videos. I've been impressed by everything that you've done, but kind of give like a background of where you're trying to come from. I get that Hotep Jesus kind of inspired you to do that, and I get it. And we talked about very similar, like Chad was saying, we talked about very similar things last week on our show. We were actually covering the GOP and the backlash and all that, but very similar sentiment about this coming month. And but what gives you your inspiration on what your message is to deliver with the Strong Dad June?
Yeah, well, so pretty much, when we were like, we're gonna call this Father's Month and we're gonna celebrate, and then we changed, we're gonna do Strong Dad June. I kind of thought, how would I add to this? And what I considered a strong dad was a leader. And so my idea is that every day for the month of June, I would bring to the table what I perceive and what maybe others perceive are as leadership qualities that strong dads and strong men in general should actually have. Just because we have so many different versions there, I say versions of what masculinity is supposed to be, and this and that, and there, to me, the only people who should be actively leading these young men in a direction are people who are leading themselves. And that's, strong fathers in general, we are supposed to be leaders. And so I want them to see, one, that leadership qualities are best exemplified through, fathers. But also, if you want to be the best leader in your own life, child or not, that, you want to kind of stray away from, these emotional men who have taken the conversation and walk towards what stoicism, actually is, and not what they call it, I suppose you'd say. So I just decided, I'm gonna just say what I believe is, right, what makes a good leader. And there's so many facets to being a leader that, I figured there's definitely 30 days worth of, teaching to do for leadership, probably more than that, but this is a good start.
Yeah, for sure. And I want you to talk about when you and I spoke last week when we were putting the article together that was on menoforder.com. You talked about this, and I actually kind of changed my Twitter bio as a result of the conversation you and I had around this. I added uh, asymptotic man to the end of, because I feel like that's like I'm approaching strong dad all the time, but I don't know that I'll ever get to the standard that I want to have for myself, and that kind of came out of the conversation that we were having, where you were talking about how I'm becoming a strong dad. I'm working towards that. I'm still like, this isn't something where it's like it's a journey that you'll never complete, because there's always somewhere where you can improve. What inspired you to, because you talked about how like you were heavier than you wanted to be, and you were not as active and as energetic and as just driven as you felt like you needed to be. What was it that sparked that and got you to this point where you said, I've got to be better, I've got to do better, and kicked this strong dad protocol off?
My mortality, man. I really did think about, what would happen. I looked at my daughter and I think, do I want this feeling like to end? And I'm like, no, I never want this beautiful feeling to end. But then that leads me to thinking about, my mortality. What I'm actually going to leave behind. How I'm actually going to affect her and others around me. And so, it was kind of my idea to just, I don't know, I just wanted to be better for the first time because it didn't benefit me, but because it benefited her. And in that process, I started to recognize the importance of making that decision. Because at first it was just like, I got to be a fit dad. I want to be, I want to scare these young men out. There was nothing, there was no depth to it. And so over time, I started to kind of build this. And then that's when I changed my YouTube to the Strong Dad Protocol, because it was my idea that what I wanted to do was I wanted to document and share my journey to becoming a better and upright man, so that others who see this can also have something that they can follow with and add to, because I don't know it all. I'm a brand new father, and there's so many things to learn. So it was kind of like, what am I going to learn? How am I going to learn it? And how am I going to share it with everybody else? So, and I'm in the fitness. That's always been my thing. So I figured that's where I'll start. I'll start here and influence men to a healthy lifestyle. And then I will slowly pull them into, okay, while we're getting fit, let's talk about the importance of this. Let's talk about what you learn. And then eventually it blossomed into, essentially Strong Dad June. I mean, it really is what I've been thinking about for a while now. So I'm glad that I thought about it right up to Father's Day.
Yeah, well, it's conceptually, like when you come at things from the, I'm going to focus on the things that I want to see manifest, instead of I'm going to focus on the things that I'm angry with and that I want to see differently. Like it's almost like I've described this as everything that we do is like on some level a form of like prayer or worship. And where do you want that energy and attention to be directed? Do you want it to be directed at some stuff that you can't stand and that makes your blood boil? Or do you want it to be directed at the things that you want to see happen?
Exactly.
Right. It's magic, man. It's putting your will into motion. It's prayer with props. You're going out and manifesting the reality you want. And I've been a father almost my entire life, because my first born was when I was 17, and I'm currently 48. And what you said about being a new dad and whatever, I was there. And all I have to say is, I wish, for my kids' sake, I had been as far down the road as you are right now when I had a 2-year-old, because I was not there. And but we, like you said, we learn what it means to be a father as we're going. And it sounds like, at least from my perspective and everything that I've seen from you, you at least have steps 1 through 10 covered, and but I think you're right. And I think that what you're talking about with getting physically fit, people like to like disassociate so much of our lives. But if you don't have, and I still have a long way to go, but I've lost a bit of weight in the last year, and I'm working towards being healthier myself. And we have to understand that all these things are connected. If you can't focus down and think about, I'm not going to eat a donut today, you're not going to be a very good dad. You're not going to be a very good man if you can't just put the donut down.
That's right. It really was like, I think that a lot of people, what I've come to understand from, other good fathers in my life, my grandfather, other, people that I've taken templates from, is that, they got to where they were through their form of meditation. And so what made it easier for me to like visualize these concepts was that exercise has been my meditation. I was incarcerated, and that was where I went to get away from it all. And so I started to apply those processes to now, and it allowed me to really think about my life in a different way. And then also, I was just like, I was trying to get other people on board, and everybody's so concerned with, like what's happening in the news that's distracting them. Everybody is like, I have favorite YouTube channels, and it's like every day all they talk about is the rainbow. All they talk about is boycott this and boycott that, and look at this and look at that. And then I realized none of these people actually want to change. They don't want to influence you to change. They want to incite you to anger, and that's it. And I realized like there's got to be a group of men who aren't that, who are not here to incite you to anger, but drive you to leadership. And I want to be one of those men. I've always wanted to be one of those men. So it really is a self-evolving concept.
Well, the rewards are different, right? Like the reward for inciting and distracting and doing all the things that appeal to people's disordered passions, that's the stuff that can get you paid. But the reward is different when you are instead inspiring people to become what they're meant to be. You may have to wait a while for that reward, and it may not be in this life. You know what I mean? But that's one of those difficult, decisions that we have to make, that we're in this for something else, because it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be difficult, but there's going to be some times where you're going to get frustrated that why aren't more people, because think about what would happen if everyone took charge and started to actually focus on the right things. It would be a completely different world that we live in, but we're just going to have to suffer through it. What part of this, because I know you talked about like you kind of restructured your YouTube channel and everything. What part of like this whole process did social media and like making the decision to actually put the camera on yourself and do some of these videos and everything? Because I know it's like it can be tempting to fall into some of that trap of like, well, if I'm gonna put myself on screen and I'm gonna do this other stuff, well then I might as well be grifting. But you chose to take that and use it for something that is. Are you surprised, I guess, with the response that you got? Because you're not grifting, but it's got legs. Like this thing is actually catching on.
I was really I really was surprised at the reactions that, and that how people got behind it. I have, I've done the race grift, and when I led protests, like coming back, I did the I don't want to say the activist grift, but more so the dissenting activist grift, because the FBI came after me. And like I realized that none of those things were fulfilling in the end. And I've always been, despite all of the things I've done in my life, good and bad, I've been skateboarding my whole life. And one of the things that has always been a part of me is that when I'm at the park, I'm always trying to teach the younger kids anything that makes them better. And when I got older, when I was released and I would go back, I was really like drilling in on a lot of these people who had grown older and who were starting to have families and who were starting to, go into the business world and the working world. And I wanted to help them. And like, I would get messages from them saying how much they loved me, or that they saw me as a father figure, or that I was doing X for them. And I realized, and I slowly started to realize over time, that what is more important is the individual that you reach, not the crowd. Because I learned this in the protest, that the crowd reeled against me, but individuals within that group came to my side or came to understanding. And so I said to myself, maybe the idea of making an impact isn't about reaching every single person. It's about enriching the lives of just a few. And I mean, even today, my little brother, he's 22. He lives in Baltimore, and he smokes weed heavily. He smokes weed. You know what I'm saying? And
I never do that though.
and my journey towards quitting, because I quit for bodybuilding, and my journey to doing that and what it was doing for me, it impacted him. And he messaged me today and he was like, I decided I wasn't going to smoke last night for the first time, and then my dream, my sleep felt so much better. And I got to talking, and I realized through our conversation that he's actually paying attention, and that I'm reaching him even though we're so far away, and it's a benefit to him. And I see other people, just those 5 or 6 people who tell me that what I'm doing is helping them is literally all that I could ever ask for. And so when this has done what it's done, to me, it's been almost overwhelming. And I'm trying to, through this entire process, stay grounded, that the message stays the same, because I don't want to fall into that trap of, I need to make the message for the people. This message is for me. And through this, others will learn, others will be affected. And that's really what it's, if you go out there and you try to make the message for the people, then, the message changes. It changes because the people are never going to stay the same. They're, they create their own from it. They don't read into they read into what you're saying. They take this and that. You see it on Twitter, you say a whole thing and they read the last sentence and they go, "Oh, so you think X?" And in order to like stray people from that, you have to show them what it is actually like to ignore distractions and actually take action. Then they start to recognize, what, man, I am actually distracting myself. I'm distracting others. How can I add to this? And now people, they're calling into the Griff report. There's a guy who calls in and he does his dad update, like his dad word.
Yeah.
To me, like, that's amazing right there. That's amazing, because other people are actually seeing why this matters. And I told my wife, she's like, this is really taking off. And I was like, I mean, it's awesome that it's taking off, but if it never takes off, I'm still never gonna stop. And the next year, I'm gonna do a Strong Dad June.
There you go.
Only 10 people give a damn, and I most certainly am gonna. I told her, I was like, you need to start a Mother's Month or something. Like, start thinking about names right now, because we need that for you, for your group. And so to me, it really is about the few, and
Sure.
who enjoys this. Well, I mean, good on you. I'm glad that you do.
Yeah, I have a friend who says he says I'd rather charge up a hill with 10 than drag 100, and there's a lot of truth to that. And I want to ask you a little bit to dig deeper into what you were saying about that leading by example versus the actually just like trying to tell people what to do. How has that experience been? Because like when you do some of that one-on-one stuff, yeah, you can have some of those conversations. When you're talking to a crowd, you kind of are just giving a speech or giving a lecture, telling people what to do. But when it's one-on-one, yeah, there's some conversation, but there's also some give and take in that, and you can share a little bit more of an example. What has your what give me like some that example that you gave is good, but like what about like the on the protest level, where did you see that sort of thing manifest, where like you had this big protest and you had these people who you were trying to lead, and some of them were fighting against you, some of them actually helped get you put in jail for the stuff, but you actually had an impact on some individual people. I remember you talking about that when we had you on a couple of years ago. Like what specifically did you witness with that one-on-one stuff that really worked?
Well, really, what I noticed was that as I, you know, people, they don't want to follow someone who, they live at the whims or at the behest of everyone else's decision making
Mm.
process. And so what I started to notice was that, when they like, first they tried to like cancel me, using like my ideology and my tweets and things. And the first thing people do is they come out and they apologize.
Mm.
And I didn't do that. I sat down with the core group of people who worked with me to help me lead crowds and move people down the street, right? I sat down with them and I said, this is what I believe. And this is how I got to that belief. Now, you can disagree with me, but I see you as who you are, despite what I believe. I recognize who you are as who you are. You are still family to me, X, Y, and Z. And so I really started to form a bond with people who were completely politically, not aligned with me.
Mm.
And what they noticed was that I never changed. Where other people would change according to how others felt, I only changed when I thought it was time for me to grow in a certain way.
Mm.
And so they started just replicating that in their life. And by replicating that, they were able to imprint how they see the world and not change for others. And then they started to see the well in that. And that's when I started to notice, okay, I'm reaching these people. I think one of the best examples was that, I had given a friend the ISIS papers by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Now we all know she's very much not with, not with the popular talk that is happening nowadays.
Yes.
And at first, I considered this could be a very bad thing to do. And I gave it to my friend. He's this black dude. His name is PK. And he did this thing called PK story time at the camp that we had put around the governor's mansion. So just imagine a bunch of, random socialists and anarchists and, homeless people sitting around the governor's mansion in tents, listening to a black dude with the afro read the ISIS papers. And I came back from a protest in Pueblo, and I saw them all sitting down and they were listening to it. And they were asking him questions, and then he was trying to help them work it out. But then afterwards, they asked me questions about these philosophies and why they are the way they are.
Mm.
And I started to realize, people can be reached. It's the method that you reach them in, at
Mm.
Yeah.
so much shock, and people take shock and awe, you know, to such a high level that they don't realize that this is really what deters people. They think, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to shock them, we're going to scare them into something, and then they're going to come in, their world's going to crash down. But that's not my philosophy. My philosophy is that only works with certain people. So
Mm-hmm.
each person, I would apply a different method. I walked through my crowds and I talked to individuals because I recognized my rhetoric it can't just be imprinted on everybody. It has to be individually given. And I feel like, with Strong Dad June, the way that I talk to the camera, I try to talk to that individual and so that they understand it. I try to stay away from, words that bring everybody into one group. And kind of how I started to, when I was out there, I noticed a change in that way. It really, it's such a hard thing to pin, your finger on.
Yeah.
And you don't even see the fruits of your labor until well after. It wasn't until well after the protest, well after coming back in, well after, diving back into my social media that, people who had been with me started to like contact me and tell me how I affected them or how I helped them. There's even, I don't know where it's at, but somebody, a friend of ours who was very much against me and my politics. She's been mailing my wife and I books over just randomly as a atonement for the way that she acted, and she sent me a book that was about dads, and the letter in it said "Happy Strong Dad June," and
What?
to me, like that blew my mind.
That's crazy.
You got to think about the mind of the person this came from. This is a person who, when I said Black people in the rainbow don't have anything in common in their struggle, this is someone who was very upset at me. Their philosophy itself is nowhere near mine. And to even write the words "Strong Dad June" to me seemed like an accomplishment. So it really is something that, I don't know, man. We do this for what could become of our actions. We don't do this for what we can measure. Because you're right, we may never see the fruits of our labor till we die. I believe, like, brothers like Khaled and Malcolm and other brothers of stature, women of that stature, they may have seen, a lot of change while they were alive. But what they really inspired, they never got a chance to see physically. It's now that you see that in individuals. And so to me, that was kind of how I felt this should be. It's, if you want to influence and help somebody, then don't look to see that influence right then and there. You're there, you're here to plant the seed.
Be patient. Yeah.
This is a garden.
So there's a lot that I could comment on what you talked about. The one thing that kind of came to mind, and I'm pretty sure but I'm a freak when it comes to spirituality, and I had an experience with a particular angel out of a Enochian system. Very long story. Anyhow, his advice to me was to not be the Hierophant, which means the teacher. Right? He said, be the emperor and others will walk your way. And I think that is the lesson that you've learned, is that you're being an emperor. You're leading yourself. Or in our way of talking, you're an anarch. You are a self-ruled individual. So you're moving in your way and other people will follow. So that's one thing I wanted to comment about. Second thing is, what you're talking about is exactly what we talk about constantly. Not everybody is going to get that the state is nothing more than criminals writ large. Not everybody's going to get that. I've always said that if you agree with me 51% of the time, you're on my side. You may disagree with me about 49% of the shit, but there are people out there that disagree with me about 75%. So having that mobility is, I think, important. And the final thing I wanted to cover in that was talking about the rainbow. And I'm not going to go off on rainbow people because, for one, my daughter's gay. I don't care who somebody sleeps with. But if people don't understand that there's an agenda, which is, in my opinion, depopulation. If they don't see that, then they're not paying attention, because this didn't come out of nowhere. And so many people, particularly on the right, try to rebel against that by attacking gay people. Well, the bottom line is, no, I'm not gay, I'm straight, but why do I care about what they're doing? And I think that the idea of being a strong dad and doing that, even if somebody is gay, If somebody's gay and they're a dad and they're doing what they're supposed to do for their child, you might reach them. Whereas if you come out and you're like, gay people suck and this is a sin and blah, 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 and you just start bashing them, that dude is not going to pay attention because you attacked him. But if you say, hey, you know what? I'm not playing your games, but I'm a strong and proud dad and move forward with that, they might get inspired. So one of the things that I have found, because I've done my fair share of maybe not as much as you have, but I've done my fair share of activism as well. And I have found that what you talked about is absolutely true. That it is individuals coming together and moving forward. And for anyone who is either on the right or considers themselves libertarian or anarchist, those people, our entire philosophy is about the individual. And it is about finding that within yourself and coming to that. So I all of that to say, where do you, because I know you've talked about that you're going to continue, where do you want to go with it? What is your goals for the future? Where do you think your philosophy and this idea will go? What is your dreams? Where does it blossom?
Well, before I tell you that, I wanted to,
Sure.
what what you said is, like when the right, they spend that time coming at them. What I noticed that it is, hold on, is that it's like the show Ghost Hunters. Okay, I tell my wife all the time, I say Ghost Hunters is not real, and she goes, "But you don't believe in ghosts?" And I say, "No, I believe in ghosts, but they're not going to see one. The people that called them probably did. They're not going to see one." And she said, "Well, why?" And I said, "Because ghosts don't want to be made a spectacle of. And what this is it's spectacle versus subtlety. If you make a spectacle and you make a show of these people, then they're never going to show themselves to the people you want them, to be exposed to. That agenda will never show itself when you make a spectacle of it. That's why they want you to make a spectacle of it. That's why they try to infuriate you, try to get you. That's why it's a distraction, because now you move in absolute silence. But when you subtly just acknowledge their presence and then continue to do your own method of action, then the light is brighter. Then they show themselves. When the ghost hunters leave, the people are probably experiencing the paranormal events all over again. But as soon as they came in, the ghosts are like, you're putting all these cameras in my face. You're trying to show me to the world. I'm not going to show myself to you. And so it's the same exact application. Same exact application. But where I want to see this go is, it's to me, this is what Strong Dad June is Hotep philosophy itself. Okay, so just like in the past, between Hotep and Stoicism of the Greek and Roman world, what you see is a few voices come out and they say, "This is this," and then they display it in the action, and then more voices show up and they go, "It's also this, and it's also that." And through their subtle action, it continues to blossom into what we know. So, you look at Hotep and you can go back to Ptah-hotep, but as you come forward from there, you see other Hotep philosophy that comes from that exact space that expands on the world as the world changes. So to me, I want to see this expand. I want to see this philosophy imprinted in new ways so that we can understand it with each other better, so that the next generation sees the worth in it, sees the worth in passing it on, even if they don't call it Strong Dad June 10 years from now. I want for people to celebrate fathers the way that we've celebrated mothers for, from dawn of time, right? I want people to or to again celebrate fathers the way we did at one point in time. And I want that to be the actual message that, I want to teach what leadership is, and I want leadership to evolve and not in the ways that we've seen it, become, but something positive. That's, I this is an imprint that I want to leave. If I get struck by lightning today, then I am satisfied with what I have helped start. And I am satisfied that what I have taught others will move on. And, there are men out there who will never have children, but that does not mean that you aren't a leader. And it doesn't mean you should not learn to lead. Hotep, on the Good Report today, um, he said to a brother who called in, he said, every man is a father figure to someone else. And that's absolutely true. Before I had children, there were people who in my life saw me as a father figure. And so this has to be progressed. Being a better father figure, this has to move forward. So that way we can break some curses, within our cultures, within the social world. There's a lot of curses that have shown up because of the negligence of men, because
Amen.
we ignored everyone else, because and that's when we were talking, me and Chad, when we were talking, um uh on the interview that you had did when we called in, or when you called me,
Yeah.
we were talking about the manosphere. And my fear is that the manosphere and the way that those men are is perpetuated more than what a true or strong or real or upright man actually is. I don't see that perpetuate. And so there has to be those who push against that, by, instead of making a spectacle of them, because I realized I tried to make a spectacle of them. Yeah, I literally started a TikTok so that I could shame some of them, and it did was just create more arguments and more subversion. It didn't work. And so I realized, okay, this is not the way. This is not the Mandalorian way. Nothing is gonna come of this. And so I was like, let me just be a man of actual action. And young people, they're gonna see the difference between me and an emotional, person who is reacting. They're gonna, and women, they're gonna see, okay, there are men making this decision the right way. That, we want to imprint on the youth. We want to imprint on the youth.
For
And
sure.
the best way to do that is to just be of good action. Eventually they're going to see the worth, even if it's in our grandchildren. It's all about fighting that good fight. And just like with when I was out there and I was protesting, I told people, it's like, I'll never stop fighting for Black people, because I don't want to die and my ancestors say, why did you quit? I don't want, when I recite those laws, or when I'm looking at, my creator, or whoever brings me to them, I don't want them to say, well, I see that you regretted your bad decisions in life, but what did you do to make good on your promise to be better for everyone? How did you actually affect everyone from that point on? What lessons did you learn? All of these things. It is cyclical, that it really is a big circle of trust that to foster for the future.
Yeah, when you said your TikTok, you were like, I think it definitely produced results, but thank God you were wise enough to recognize that it wasn't the results that you wanted it to produce. Because there's a lot of that. Like, you could have gone that route and like probably like built a big, I don't know, Dr. Umar or Kevin Samuels style of following or whatever by just crapping on that stuff. But I wanted to touch on. So you said celebrating fathers, and it kind of something went off in my head, because I think you would share this sentiment, but I want to make sure, and I want to highlight this. I don't think you or I or Marcus, I don't think we feel like fatherhood needs to be celebrated because we are complaining or whining about that it's not celebrated enough or anything like that. It's more of like, we recognize that absence of good father figure, role model, male leadership, what it has done to the world around us. And we want people to see an example of what it looks like when men are doing it right, when there are strong dads out there doing the right thing, so that you can highlight that. And so when we say celebrate fathers, it's not like hey, it's our turn. Celebrate us now, damn it. Like, no, it's not about that. This is more about like we need to recognize the people who are actually going to lead people where they need to go instead of the what we have been seeing, which is celebrating a lot of the wrong stuff. Not to say anything negative about the mothers who have had to step in and fill the role of mother and father, but we can all recognize that no one, I don't care who you are, I don't care how great of a mother you are, there is no mother in the history of earth who has been able to teach a man how to be a man.
Right.
This
You
is
cannot do it.
so
The
true.
only way you can learn is from another man what the standard is and how to measure yourself against that standard. And I say all that to say, because you talked about some of this is for guys who either are never going to have fathers or who are never going to have children or who don't have children yet. But I put this little thing together this morning to just kind of show off some of the guys who are out there getting it done. And one of the ones that I wanted to really highlight is, well, so first of all, there's this guy up here. What can you say about this man and this beautiful little girl here? Shout out to Trey. But this man right here, King Randall doesn't have any kids yet, but
No, he
he's
does. He does. He
oh, he
does.
does? Okay, so I
Yeah,
didn't know if
yeah,
he
yeah.
okay, so he does have all right. Well, but he's impacting way more than his own progeny. So shout out to the guys who are out there helping to fill those gaps for some of the other kids who maybe they've got a father but he's not as available as he needs to be, or maybe they don't have a father around or anything. It's just having more and more of those strong male figures, because look, my dad was very present in my life, and I still have like some teachers and some coaches who had a tremendous impact on me. It's not to say anything negative about your father if you have other good male role models who can show you the way. And look at Uncle Hotep and his girls. I mean, this is awesome. This is Jason, who helps out with some of the stuff on Hotep's Been Told You, to organize the clips and not the clips, but the topics and everything. And we just have all these different dads just doing their thing. Street politics with Talisha, Banks up there. You got Tim Free. Shout out to Tim. He's one of our patrons. Just a lot of good stuff. I'm with you. Like, I want to keep promoting these folks and showing this stuff off, because they're already really good examples of what needs to be out there. And I think the more people see this and promote these types of father figures and these types of male role models, the more it's going to be an inspiration for some of these young men coming up to follow that lead. What has been, as you have, because you've kind of been like the lightning rod, so to speak, of the hashtag Strong Dad June. A lot of that stuff has come through you. What have been some of the ones? I know you highlighted Yancey, you highlighted King Randall, and you've highlighted a couple of other things. What has been some of the highlights for you from this first week? Because it's only been 7 days, but man, it's going strong.
Oh man. First of all, I like finding pictures on my timeline that I haven't even gotten a chance to like or retweet yet.
Yeah, right.
People who don't even follow me or I don't even follow, seeing them do that. But I went on because I do the posts on Facebook as well. I do it on all my socials because
Okay.
I decided none of my socials should be devoted to anything but this,
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't, matter to those people. And my wife, she went looking up the Strong Dad June hashtag on Facebook, and there were some people who were doing it. Now I don't know where they got it from. I don't know if that was an organic thing that they thought of. I like to think, because Father's Month is a active hashtag in there, that
Mm-hmm.
if it were going to be something organic from there, it would have been Father's Month, but it was Strong Dad June. And so, I'm looking on these other pages and I'm seeing women celebrate their fathers. That to me is very important, because we all know the importance of the bond of a father and son, and what both teaches, what the son teaches the father and vice versa. But I don't think that we talk enough about the importance of the father for a daughter's life and what he can do for her. And my wife, she wrote on the on our calendar, she has a quote, and I don't remember the whole quote. I just remember the last part of the quote where it said, "A dad is a daughter's first love," and that's kind of how that's what propelled me to this, was that I want to be, you know, I I finally selected the woman I would want to marry based on the good examples of the women that were in my life. And so I realized the impact of that, you know, and so I'm like, okay, how do I want my daughter to, one, as a black family, do I want her to have a bad relationship with black men? Because this is something that happens in our community, is that they have bad relationships with their father, and then that imprints onto their relationship with other black men. If she doesn't choose a black man, that would hurt my heart, but it'd be fine. But I don't want her to not do that because she has a bad relationship, because she attaches it to how her father treated her, or her father treated, her mother. And so to me, it was about, I have to be, a good example, not just of a black man for my daughter, but as a man in general. You know, she has to not see men the way the world wants women to see men. She has to see masculinity for what it actually is, not what she's being told it is, not what these emotional men are making it out to be. She needs to see it develop. She needs to see it over time. I want good stories to be passed. If I don't live to see her grow up, I don't want my wife to be like, well, he didn't listen to me and this and that. Like, I want her to say, your father loved me and treated me, with respect and kindness, and loved you, and all of these things. Those things right there have been the gem to me in this, is seeing the mothers and the women who are celebrating Father's Month, who are celebrating Strong Dad June, who have our backs, because that's that's something that also men need to see. They need to see that they are valued by, and what they provide is actually valued in this way, in order to propel them. Because sometimes we just need a call to action as men. Sometimes
For
we
sure.
will, you know, I tell my wife, I'm like, if I didn't have you, I wouldn't really. I mean, I would just kind of just be kicking it, going to the gym and working. Like, there's no purpose for me if I have no one to actually lead. So,
Yeah.
seeing that right there it's been a phenomenal part about this, because it lets other men know that this is worth it. This learning to be and becoming a better leader. But not only is it worth it, that it is a valued process of life, and we're not the only ones. We're not in an echo chamber talking about how men aren't, appreciated and X, Y,
Right.
and Z.
Right.
It's not an echo chamber. Other people agree, and other people want that to be shared. So that's been the gem. That's been the thing for me.
For sure. And I think it's actually essential. I mean, I've been married 3 times, and I'm with my last wife, regardless. And at the, not to throw any kind of negativity towards my first 2 wives, but they didn't have the kind of family building that Amber, my current wife, has. She, we have Father's Day is a huge deal in our family, and has been for several years. And the person who set that into motion was my wife. She was like, I've made a major impact, not only in my kids' life, but in our, extended family. And she wanted to recognize that, because I make a big deal of Mother's Day. And she was like, I want to see that. I think what you said is absolutely key. Yes, a man can stand on his own. I'm not trying to say that he can't, but it is absolutely, in a family setting, almost essential to have a woman behind you who is holding you up, because yes, we try to be the strong man and do that, but we're human, and sometimes we fail. And the best person is someone like a wife or a girlfriend or whoever it is, to say, hey, you're kind of screwing up here. Don't you think you ought to turn around and maybe make this better? Or, hey, I know that I have a wonderful, my both of my girls are great, but and I have 4 kids, so but and all of them are fantastic. But the girls are, you're right, girls are different than boys,
No
and
way.
I know, and but my youngest has I think given me the best opportunity to be the best father that I can be, because I had the kind of support that I needed. And at the end of the day, is she perfect? No. But she will make one hell of a good woman one day. And a lot of the reason for that is because she had a dad that was ready to be a dad. And from somebody who was, I was at 17, I was not ready to be a dad. But when Anya was born, I was. And so I think that the more we build each other and the more that we build ourselves towards being a man and doing the things that we need to do, many of the goals that I have outside of my family start to come to fruition too. For instance, and this is me segueing to my next question, but for me, I care about what is going on with the government, and I care about how they treat people, and because obviously I'm an anarchist and I think they're all bad, but I would like to see us move away from a father figure in the state and start seeing a father figure in actual families where the state becomes irrelevant, because I don't need to go, I don't need to go talk to the welfare office. My dad will help me out. If I need my car fixed, dad'll come do it, or my brother will come do it. And we start doing that. Do you see, and this is the question I was segueing to, do you see this impacting culture in that way, moving towards a more self-reliant form of being, a Hotep and build, if you will?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that the fact that a lot of people are getting more propelled to homeschool because of what's happening in schools, I think what that's going to end up doing is really stressing to these families the importance of the two-parent household and of the father, because they're not going to be able to, it's going to be a hard undertaking alone.
Mm,
And people are going to see the value in the family unit more and more. I mean, they're already seeing it. We already see that outside of, the circle of grifting people are doing, that there's this larger and larger and ever growing contingent of families saying this needs to change, and the only way to change it is with our family. And people who think like that, they understand the importance of both the mother and the father. I on my YouTube, literally, I've had it for a while, and there's only 2 videos that have gotten, well over 1,000 views, and that's, I made a video about Brandon Tatum during Trump's his first run, right? And that one got like 5,000 views of just hate. But this homeschool video that I made right right before June started. I had made a video that was like, we need, and it was talking to dads, and it was like my first official Strong Dad video. I was like, or Strong Dad protocol video. I was like,
Hmm.
we homeschool. This is why it's important. Blah blah blah. And still, it's literally my highest viewed video, and it's nothing but people talking about me and my husband decided to do this. It's me and my husband, me and my husband, me and my husband, my husband and I, my wife and I. It's been families nonstop commenting on it and talking about how important this actually is. That, or they already made the choice and how good of a choice it was. And there's even single mothers on there who are like, I'm a single mother, but this is the best choice. The very fact that they're commenting, I'm a single mother, what about us? They're not commenting that, right? They're saying, I'm a single
Yeah.
mother, it still is the best choice.
Hmm.
So that alone just truly shows that there is an impact that even we're not making, that is
mm,
being impressed upon people. And so I see this bleeding into the culture, and that's, they're only going to try to create more inventive ways to distract us from each other and distract us from our children. They're going to find more and more ways. They are going to try to incite you to anger more and more. And that's how you know it's working. That's how you know it's working. When they start targeting a group rather than individuals, that's when you know that traction is being made. And so I honestly, it's going to bleed into the culture, and those who aren't with it, they're not going to be with it. But
Mm-hmm.
they're not here. You know, I told my wife the other day, because she commented on Hotep Jesus when he was on Gutfeld, because he was like, you know, we're gonna co-op Pride Month. We call it the Strong Dad Dude June, and she was like, well, why use the language of co-op? Like, you might deter some people. And I'm like, you know, this is true. It might deter some people, but one, you got to think of the audience who he's talking to.
Right.
Right.
They love things like co-op and boycott, so
Right.
they're going to be all for it.
Right.
But also, we're not here to pull people who don't want to be here.
Right.
Mhm.
We're not here to influence those who don't want to be. You can't influence people who don't want to be influenced, taught, or
Bars.
led. You have to just do. Those who are ready will. Those who want to will find out how, and that impact show itself in the way things are. And then you might get that person who says, you know what, I am a gay dude. I'm a gay dude, but I got children, and I do need to be a strong dad. You know, that is possible. I mean, on my other socials, a lot of people from the faith still interact and find my content because they followed when I was out there. And a lot of them were in the rainbow community. And not one of them has said anything negative about Strong Dad June. They love that this is being done the way it is, even if others are doing it to, you know, to co-opt, or others are doing it to deter from what that month is. You know, they're not even, it's like they're not even concerned about that more than they are the fact that we're doing this in the positive way. We're not saying, y'all got to protect your kids from them people out there. You know, we're like, these are qualities of a good man, and these qualities can be imprinted and people can learn from them. So it's going to reach the culture, whether it's us or it's the family movement, you know, or it's the, you know, the homeschool mother movement, that it's going to reach the culture, because they're going to recognize that we as a people are safer together than we are separated trying to fight an entity that we can't put our hands upon. We can't grasp it. You know what I'm saying? So that's just what I think it will get there.
Agreed.
Shout out Taylor Madden. Your description of like, so co-opting or whatever you, that audience in particular, like if anything, those people needed to be reached so they could stop promoting the stuff that they don't like. Because I swear to God, like I think, like, I don't go to these story hour things or any of this other stuff. I don't take my kids to them. So like that stuff, like, yeah, it's weird, but like the people who are taking their kids there, like, who knows what's going on at those people's houses. So that doesn't really land on me, because that's not happening at my house. And I'm not going to those things, and I can't stop them from taking their kids to them or anything, and or doing them themselves. But what I can do is I can do me. And that's one of the things that I really like about this approach is, like, we're not even going to talk about that. We're not even going to acknowledge it. We're not even going to say that we're like, you haven't gone and started your videos saying this isn't Pride Month, this is Strong Dad. Like, no, it's just, this is Strong Dad June. Strong Dad June, day number 6, day number 7, that whatever day it is, and this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about accountability, or we're going to talk about inspiration or discipline, or whatever the different virtue, or whatever you want to call it, principle that you want to promote. And it's so in a way, like, when you think about like the culture war, you're not really making yourself a target for any of that stuff, because you're not attacking anybody, so they don't feel defensive and feel like they need to come attack you. And what are you going to do? You're going to say like, no, you shouldn't work out. No, you shouldn't like be a good father. You shouldn't be a good father. You shouldn't treat your wife with respect. Like, what is your, you know, I feel it's almost like in a way, not the same thing, but similar to like the Eminem 8 Mile thing, where it's like, all right, what are you going to say about me now? Like, what are you going to do? Like, I'm not giving you any ammunition to come at me with. And so in the other thing is too, like, I get it. Like, I want as much as possible for the entire world to be transformed and for everyone to find a way to and I have to point this out, like, look at Trey's head. He's got a halo that is shaped like a kufi. It's like a halo kufi that he's got working there.
For sure.
So as much as I would like for some sort of halo kufi something or other to like just completely transform everyone, and the whole world is like the happy place that it can be if we all were virtuous and did what we were supposed to do. But I can't do anything but control what I can control.
Right.
I can't. The only thing I can do is try the best I can to do this.
Yeah.
To be a strong dad and to keep getting better at that. And I've failed. I've made some mistakes. I've had some, it's only been 7 days and I'm still messing up, but I get back up and I keep going and I try to make up for it. But when you approach things from the standpoint of how in the world do I expect to transform society at large, culture at large? How do I expect to win the culture war or influence the culture war if I can't even influence my own family? I can't even change myself. What am I doing? And so like that's the thing that I appreciate the most about this whole thing is that it's like I have to take care of my business because when I'm minding other people's business, I'm not taking care of my own.
And this is the subtlety versus the spectacle approach.
Mm-hmm.
The subtlety of it is that we aren't, we're not trying to attack anybody. We're talking about what is good about being a father during this time. And, people are, my first video, I said, if you disagree, you are free to disagree. And you have your right to your own opinion.
We're still gonna do it.
You will not engage because that's what those, there are those who want to live their life and their lifestyle on their own. And then there are those who want their lifestyle to be impressed upon society.
Mm-hmm.
And those people we don't want to engage with.
Right.
We don't want to engage with those people. How do we do that? By being, by taking action. What is taking action? For a man, that is being a strong dad. That is leadership. So we just gotta make each other better. Is the whole purpose of this?
Yeah, for sure. And again, it just what you were saying about the different impressions. Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. There is an agenda. That doesn't mean that everybody that's gay is with that agenda. I remember, Chad and I, when we were in New Orleans with Adam Kokesh doing the campaign thing, we brought our friend Jason. It's my wife's best friend. Jason's a gay man that we're real good friends with. And Jason came along and had a blast and cooked us a lot of really good food and cleaned up. He was a good dude amongst us. And I would say, and I would say that he didn't give a shit about, trying to indoctrinate people into a difficult lifestyle. Why the hell would you want to indoctrinate people into a lifestyle that is hard to maintain? It just is, because regardless of what the people in the United States or maybe the people in Brussels might want to force upon the world, Africa ain't gonna have it, and a good portion of right, they ain't playing, and half of China ain't playing. So at the end of the day, it's gonna fail because it doesn't build a society. And I think that's the example that we need to set. Again, I'm an anarchist, and I don't agree with states, but at the same time, if we want this community that we're currently calling the United States to be a better place, we're going to need action like what you're talking about. We're going to need people who are individually coming out and saying, okay, one, I would stop the bombing of a bunch of people that didn't do shit to us. Number two, we need to get our shit together. We can't, a good father isn't spending his money on drugs, whether it's weed or it's crack or whatever the hell it is. A good father doesn't spend his money on that shit at the expense of his children having a meal. A good father doesn't, which is what our government does constantly. They're constantly spending money on the crack of the week and giving free pipes out with Hunter Biden, but they continually do shit that destroys this fucking country. Whereas if we would just come together and say, you know what? Men need to be men, women need to be women, people need to be people, and move forward and come together voluntarily for common goals, then all the problems in the world solve themselves tomorrow. Because then you're not worrying about this asshole, because the greater message that you're talking about is that I'm not worried about what the gay guys down the road are doing. I'm worried about what the fuck I'm doing. And if more people would have that mentality in their daily life, the world would just solve itself. And I think that we are, regardless of what the TV tells you and indoctrinates us into doing, I actually think that one of the reasons why you're seeing the success with this that you are is because it's resonating with a greater community in the world. I think that this is a popular idea, and I think they wouldn't have to do propaganda in the other direction if it wasn't. And so I think that, one, I think you're going to see some pushback from more authority figures eventually. If this does catch on and becomes a more than 1 year thing, you're going to see some pushback, because they're going to call you everything under the sun, because they want to stop the positive message. So if that's the case, are you prepared for that? What are you going to do?
Trey's been there and done that.
Hey man, hey man, the feds tried to get, you know what I'm saying? I in the middle of, being investigated, in the middle of having an active informant in our midst, trying to, make people believe I'm this person. I just realized that if I spend any time trying to push back on them, I can spend no time proving that I am not what they make me out to be.
Nice.
So for me, the concept of do not engage, and believe me, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I get on the timeline and I'll see some shit, and I really
shout out to Drelly.
Yeah. And I really have to take a deep breath. I have probably typed out and deleted more things this in the beginning and the leading up to this month than I ever have, because I'll type it out and I'll go, do I really need to say this? I don't. I'm not going to engage. So, if this takes off in that form, in that manner, and entities try to do what they do, I'm going to apply the same logic I applied when I was doing protests. I'm going to apply the same logic that I applied, throughout my life of trying to be better. I've lived through a lot of adversity, and the one common thread through all of that adversity is that, is that quote from Dune that I talked about not fearing. I can't let what this is become me, because then I will lose me. And I'm just starting to get him. I'm just starting to feel who that person actually is. And it feels too good to give up. It feels too good to let go. And others are going to see that, and they're going to go, man, who I'm becoming is way, way more important than who they want me to become, or who they're trying to make me. And so let them push back. You know what I'm saying? If they push back, then my message will be even louder not to engage, because that will just show that we're not here for that. I did take a page out of Andrew Tate's book, because when he got released, he decided, instead of trying to make a spectacle of how I am a spectacle, I'm just going to tell them, I'm just going to push back by being a more evolved person. And so he has an interview, and the whole interview, he's like, I'm not going to talk about that stuff. I'm going to talk about what I am doing, you know, and regardless of who or what he is, that philosophy does actually work. You know, just ignoring the crowd sometimes is all you need to do for an actual impact to be made. You know, when 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 I was protesting, I called myself, I actively identified myself as a Black nationalist. I actively identified myself as Pan-African. I actively identified myself as Hotep. And when they tried to find all of the negative things about each one of those and imprint them on me, I never denied it. I never backed down from it. I never shied from it. They did this thing. It's called like they had their own town hall type thing. I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pull a quote straight from Malcolm and read it to these idiots, because I'm not going to sit here and defend myself. I'm going to say, this is the rhetoric you say that you're about. These are the people you say you follow. This is what you say you believe. If they believe that people, you know, if they believe in good, if they believe in helping people, if they believe in uplifting and taking care of families, if they believe that men have, you know, done such horrible things, then I'm going to come out there and I'm going to talk about how your beliefs and how you're acting are contrary to each other. I'm going to show you, like you said, what are they going to say? Don't be a bad dad. You know,
Right.
they're going to say, don't practice patience. You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't be accepting. No, they're not going to say that.
Right.
And so they're either going to have to show themselves even more the ghost hunter method, or they're going to have to relent. And the more they relent, the more good we are actually doing. And so that's, you know, that's what's going to happen. Let them push back. All that's going to do is make more strong dads.
Yeah, well, so prepare yourself for another part of it, because I know you talked about how like good it feels as you're becoming this. Like there's early on in something like this, like it can be a sort of like an oil and a I don't know, a breath, and oil, water, and breath. Like it's all like very life giving, but there's going to be a dryness that comes where it's going to be empty and seem like it's you've stalled out. You know, just expect it, prepare for it, and be prepared to power through it, because that's where it's just like working out. You know, like there's that point where like you're like, all right, I'm not feeling the stuff that I felt when I was first, you know, really getting gains and all this stuff. That's the stuff where you have to really power through it, because then when you do break through, then that's when like that explosive stuff starts happening again, because you got through that.
I like to tell people that, you know, in those moments, like in those moments of silence, in those moments where you feel like maybe you're just stagnant, that's where actual growth is made. Because, you know, when you're feeling good, it's easy to apply patience and discipline and all these other concepts and all the other ones that I'll bring up as the month progresses. But you don't get to apply those for real until you reach adversity. And so, you know, when I had went out, I wanted to be the best leader I could be. And so I didn't realize that being the best leader that I could be and learning that would mean me leading protests, would mean me going down that road. I just went out there at first to listen and talk to people and develop this idea in me. And so what was thrust upon me, even though it was very loud, was the calm. It was that the highest point of adversity in my life outside of being incarcerated and outside of going into the delivery room. You know, it was truly, that was where my growth actually, you know, was fleshed out, so that when I came out on the other side, I was this new person. And now what do you do when you have a new canvas? You have to picture. And so again, you know, it happened again, and you know, I felt the highs from that. And then my wife said, you know, we're pregnant. We had converted a van before we had our baby. We were gonna leave the state of Colorado and just go travel and enjoy our lives and just never settle anywhere.
Chris
And
Farley style in a van down by the river.
Literally, I converted a whole van. We started an Instagram account called Pan Afro Van. Like we were there.
I love
We
it.
were ready. I spent a whole winter season fixing this van, literally on YouTube University, learning how to be a mechanic because they wanted to charge us an arm and a leg. And literally, right when I was like, that close to finishing, I just, made the template for the kitchen. We just got the sink in. All we had left to do was make the sink. And I came home from work and she was like, "Baby, I'm pregnant." And then, and for, I
God
swear,
had other plans.
for like 4 months, I was trying to figure out a way to put a car seat in that joint. Like, how can, and thinking like, how can we have a baby inside of, like, what's the least amount of things a baby needs to be in this van and all this stuff. And through all of that, we came out on the other side of that. And, we're not traveling, but what we have is beautiful. And, just to be able to come home every day and see either that smile or her crying, but just to see and smell them and be in their presence is the other side. And so that, you're right, it's gonna be like that. That's what and that's what I think this month should be about. Is this month isn't our high point.
Yeah.
This is our reflection point. Our high point comes when this month is done, and when we show what we've learned, and when we're able to employ the things that we've learned. And we're gonna hit another point where it's gonna seem like nothing happened, and I'm gonna be right there reminding dudes that this is what it's about. That's why my YouTube became the Strong Dad Protocol before Strong Dad June ever came, because this is a journey. This is a moment in time. And so in this journey, there is going to be highs and there is going to be lows. But when there's lows, it's like it's the indigenous principle. When the winter comes, you are supposed to be resting and preparing yourself, getting ready. This is for the harvest. Right now, this is our winter. And we are done all of this. We are going to be able to see the harvest be plentiful. And if we pass away, that's, and your whole life may be the winter. Your whole life may be that. The harvest may only come in your future generations, but it will come as long as you continue to plant and make sure that the soil is prepared. And that's, so you're right. It's
perfect.
It is going to be there, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. I lived the best time. My best life is in those moments. I mean, I was in prison. That was the lowest point of my life, and every day I woke up happy to be alive. Every day I woke up smiling. Every day, despite all of the crap that I had to deal with the minute I opened up the cell door, every day was a new opportunity for me to enjoy what little I had. So if I can go my life with only owning a toothbrush, only owning the book that was sent to me from a family member and living in a bathroom with another dude, then I can overcome anything else that comes my way. And that's sure. That's how I see it. Even if it's something I'm unprepared for. That's 2 days I had spoken about bravery and courage. And the reason that is important is because in those low points, you're going to have to be courageous, because you don't know what's going to come. You have no idea what you need to be afraid of. You have no idea what type of fear is coming your way. And so, yeah, it's gonna happen. And guys need to learn to be ready for that. That's how you become a leader.
Amen. And when you were talking, it's funny because you got back to courage. When you were talking, you reminded me of a quote from a book that I really like called the Libra, the Book of Balance. It's similar to the Sermon on the Mount, but it has some different focuses. And in it, and to be clear, this is Aleister Crowley, but this is the quote. It is, "Humble thyself before thyself, yet fear neither man nor spirit. Fear is failure and the forerunner of failure, and courage is the beginning of virtue." And I think that is what you have really enunciated, is that your courage is leading directly to virtue. I think it's amazing.
One of the things I've always found too is you're talking about trying to have these different virtues and everything. I have found that and that people, it's easy to practice the virtues when things are going well, right? Like, it's like, oh, look how patient I am. Yeah, you're patient because you don't have to any temptation to be impatient.
Right.
That's why it's so easy for you right now. It's what I have found is when I pray for patience or something else, pray for I don't know, like honesty or whatever, or something like that. Like that's when it's going to be like, oh, you patience, you say, you want patience. Okay, here is an impossible situation for you to be patient in. Now, let's see if you can be patient.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you want honesty. Okay. Well, now it's time for you to own up to something that you have been trying to pretend like wasn't going on, and now you got to deal with it. It's that sort of thing, I think, that I find is when you're really getting somewhere, that's when the difficulty is going to be at its highest, is because it's the way that we grow. It's the only way that we grow is by going through something challenging and then coming out on the other side and having been strengthened for it.
Amen. Yeah, God's kind of crazy that way, man. I love your story about how you're planning on going around with the van and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I had similar plans, man. And then I met the love of my life, and boom, we were pregnant. So dude, I feel that for sure. And but again, I think that like I wouldn't be me if that instance hadn't happened to me, because to be clear, it's going on. Amber and I are going to be married 14 years this year. So, I wouldn't be me if it weren't for that happening. If I didn't have to remain a dad, for 13 years, if I didn't, find the love of my life who has lifted me up, I wouldn't be the man I am now. In fact, I'd probably be a pretty bad person because I was heading in a bad trajectory. And so I think that God had plans, not trying to be like, ooh, I know, because I don't, but I think God had plans for you. And one of the things that it seems to me that God planned for you is that father mentality, which you have adopted. And I think that because of that, how many people in our lives do we look at and they're wonderful people, but they're not parents. So there's something you learn as a parent that is a key to life, and you just don't get it in any other way. And you can tell. We fathers know, you can tell when some ass bag's talking about some shit and he has no idea what he's talking about because he's not a dad. Yeah, he's trying to tell you how to, you need to tell your kids to do this and this. Okay, well, you need to have a kid because good luck.
Right.
Because being a father teaches you something, and it doesn't mean that for those that are new in the audience to being a father and don't have the blessing that Trey has, who seems to be ahead of the game. For those that are new, it'll come. Your kids will beat it right into you. I guarantee.
Well, I was going to say what I think happens is, like, we are blessed with we are prepared if we're willing to receive it for whatever comes our way. There's nothing that's put in front of us that we aren't given the tools, if we're willing to recognize them and use them, that we aren't given the tools to be able to deal with and address. The problem is that a lot of times we want to avoid, like Trey, like if you had said, listen, I know we're pregnant, but we're still doing this van thing. And the van is going to be my central figure in my life, well, then it's probably going to be rough go, but it
been here.
Yeah. So it was your willingness to see, like, okay, I need to put some of what I've had planned aside and let this new plan kind of take shape. I talked about one time I prayed for humility. It's like one of the most humiliating situations that I could have been put in, and Marcus knows I started praying for poverty a couple of years ago, not like more of like emptying myself of my own like selfishness and that sort of thing. And then I got hacked. And so it was like, oh, all right. So it's like that. Okay. Well, golly, like you don't have to take everything so literal.
Watch what you ask for. You might just get it.
But I mean, the thing is though, that prepared me for what happened to me. My whole take on it, if I hadn't been in the place that I was spiritually going into that episode, I would have been a basket case. I don't know what would have happened to me. But I was prepared for it. I was preparing myself for it. And then when it happened, it was just like, all right, this is only money. And this is only like a temporary, issue that I got to deal with. And I'll be okay on the other side of this, because what I got to come to real grips with is all of the people and my relationship with God that mattered to me the most weren't going anywhere. All that stuff was still there. And if I had freaked out about it, I might have lost a lot of that. But because I was able to recognize that those things were more important, and they were going to be there because I valued them higher than the money or any of the other stuff. It just, I'm not going to say it was like water off a duck's back, but it was a lot less painful than it would have been otherwise. And I came out of it better on the other side. So
that's true. I learned the worth in getting what you ask for, a long time ago, but I didn't really truly understand the concept until before going out there to protest. Because I think I talked about it last time. Right before I went out, it was on Malcolm's birthday. I didn't know it was his birthday, but it was on that day, and I was in the tub because I love meditating in the tub, and I was just out loud just saying, I want to be better. I want to help people. How do I help people? What do I have to do? I will do anything. I gave myself up in that manner and was thrust right into a situation that I never actually thought was about to happen. And it's ever since then I think, okay, well, first of all, I don't ask until until I'm truly ready, or until I feel like I'm ready, just in case.
Right.
But when I am ready for something like that, to take on that challenge, I ask for it in that manner. My wife, she, we got together and we do ancestor worship. That's our way of life. And we, we ask for abundance in our life. And the way we get abundance is, I have a heavy ass workload, and I'm I'm spending long days sanding cabinets and running around and doing this and that, and I'm tired as hell, and I'm irritable, and I just want to come back and sleep, and I'm like, man, I just want to sit here and relax with my family. But we did ask for abundance, and the only way it's going to come is if we put in the work. That's really what it was. Like I wanted so badly to go to the first Hotep Con and the second one. I wanted more to be a good example of Hotep, that like like I wanted people to see Hoteps in a better light, the way that Hotep Jesus. And so I realized that those two times I wasn't going to get that chance, because the first time I had to lead hundreds of people in the street, and second time I had to learn to lead my family through a winter with a brand new business. And so to me, and in this time right here, I wanted some real confidence in my life, and now I'm doing a bodybuilding show, but I'm also will be going to HotepCon this year. Like, everything that I'm asking for, I am receiving. What you ask for, you do receive, but there is no gift. You're not getting a gift, is what it is. You're not getting a gift. You have to work for it. You're getting a reward. You're getting
a blueprint a lot of times.
You're getting a blueprint.
Yeah.
So things like that are very important to me. Like, that aspect of meditation, and actually, trying to put into existence or flesh out the things you want to be in existence, into the universe, to whatever creator you believe in, your whatever higher power is there for you. There is a path for you, but there's multiple paths for you. And what they said was, here are 100 different ways you could be. Here are 1,000 different ways you can be. And it's up to you which predetermined path you take based on what you ask me for. If you ask me, you don't really want to go travel, Trey. You didn't really want to, go out and be a vanner. You wanted a family. And that's what you chose. So no, F your van. Here's a baby.
Right.
Those things are they are undervalued, and that's going to be that form of meditation will definitely be one of the things I talk about in the month. But I'm going to save that for like later on. I like to do like a high low.
Right, right.
I said, hey, stop smashing Chinese food. Maybe tomorrow I'll talk about something a little lower. So
Yeah.
it really is, because this is a roller coaster. So we have to experience every bit of it, while we're here.
Sure. So I got to touch on it, man. Because it's got me, because I'm influenced like motherfucker from voodoo, which is a big part of ancestor worship. What's that look like in your life? The ancestor worship stuff. I'm just curious because that's something that interests me personally.
Well, so I practice chemetism. As a practice, I live the Kemetic lifestyle. I try my best to live that. And my wife, she is American. Her family is Nigerian. And so I always wanted that equally yoked thing. What up, Nicco? I always wanted that.
Hey, I didn't even see you come up.
Yeah, he just popped in. But yeah, I wanted that equally yoked mentality in our family, because I realized that there is worth in that. But how do we put these together? Well, the Kemetic way of life is a form of ancestor worship and ancestor veneration. And so we essentially brought Igbo spirituality in with my Kemetic belief, because Kemetism is not a religion. It's a way of living. So you're not sitting there praying to Ma'at. You're practicing the laws that Ma'at passed on to you to live better. So I'm free to practice the ancestor worship in a different way. And I've always believed in ancestor veneration. And so that's how we practice. We have our ancestor altar. I always would have an altar everywhere I've ever been. I've had an altar even before incarceration. So what we did was, we're going to do our ancestor altar in our room the way we should do it, away from the public. And then we have an altar that is just ours. And we have it out in the living room. And we employ, whenever we want to ask for something, or whenever we want to meditate on something, we turn to either one of those altars for that thing. So with our ancestor worship, we cook for our ancestors. We put money out for our ancestors. We spend that time, if we need to, or if we're propelled to sit and talk to our ancestors.
Nice.
And we follow the Igbo way in that way, because that appeals to me also, since there's Nigerian in my family as well. So to me, I've always been like, I don't want to do something that my ancestors would not have done. That's kind of how I feel. And so I chose something that my ancestors were born into or a part of, to whatever degree. I'm a Black American. I have 100 different types of African in me, but the most prevalent one is Nigerian. So I was like, that's going to be the one. I'm going to choose that one right there. And I'm going to venerate all of my ancestors through that way. And when you practice Igbo spirituality, you end up, I'm not going to speak firmly, because I'm sure there's many Babalaos who would be like, well, no. But when you practice it, you do find that you can, as a African American, imprint a lot of it onto other forms of worship within our culture, because it all kind of is together, despite the differences. And practicing chemetism, you first and foremost, you learn to embrace the all. That's the last one. That's the last law is I embrace all, or I embrace the all. And so
Nice.
this is a form of embracing the all within my family unit, essentially. So that's what it looks like for us.
Love it. Yeah, for me, see, because people look at me and I am a white dude, right? This is a white.
No.
I know it's crazy, but what how it was explained to me, because I work with voodoo spirits, and what they said is, okay, like G'day, who is the voodoo spirit of death, dance, and sex, and he and I are buddies. And he explained to me, he was like, well, the voodoo you do isn't the voodoo they do. It's a different voodoo. He was like, because your ancestors, your where you come from, and your voodoo spirits are an Americanized, African influenced spirituality, but it's an American one, and it's your ancestors you're dealing with. So I've got some weird ass ancestors, but for me, that grounded nature of finding that lineage, you don't know 100%. You can't like view what God would look like, but you know how God has come, and how God came was the multitudes that stand behind you. So I really like and appreciate, because it's a similar kind of approach to spirituality that I have. For me, my meditation isn't meditation; it's drumming. But I appreciate what your spirituality. I'm
Yeah,
sorry I missed that.
oh no, I was gonna say I do that too. I definitely love drumming. I mean, when I was incarcerated, I was in the sweat lodge.
Nice.
I went to the sweat lodge for my last 4 years, and I sung ceremony for 3.5 of those years, and then my last half year, I carried the chanupa, which is the vessel for spiritual. You're the conduit for everyone's prayer there, and
Nice.
so I learned what it actually means to be depended on for others spiritually through that. But when you're Hotep, the one of the main things about being Hotep is understanding the ways of others. And I knew that being Hotep was for me because my whole life I have studied the religions and the ways of others out of sheer interest, out of sheer interest.
Mm.
And when you actually do that, you recognize that there is a thread that moves through all of them that can be followed. You don't have to stray from the path to, if you're studying Buddhism, you don't have to stray from the path of the religion you're in to understand it, because there's
Mhm.
a road in there for you that moves you all the way through. And that's something that, that I call it exploration, and that'll probably be what I talk about tomorrow.
Nice.
But when you want to be a wellspring of knowledge for others, even if they can only if that well only goes so low, you want people to be able to draw water from it regardless. And
Mm.
so learning the ways of other people, it cues you into what drives them, how they understand things. I know that I can talk to someone of a completely different belief and express ideas through the way they understand it, because I took the time to try to understand them to the best of my knowledge. And that's how I knew being Hotep was what I was meant to be, is because
Beautiful.
that is the practice of being Hotep. You are literally learning the ways of others. It literally the laws of Ma'at. I embrace all. I am open to love in various forms. I if you go down those laws, you will understand why it's important to understand others in a way that best suits them, so that you can produce something, some fruit from that conversation or that relationship. And there are ways of life and spiritualities that are, very much not in that vein, that don't agree. But when you take a step outside of your own thinking, you start to see even your own biases within your way. And so that to me is, it's always been a part of the philosophy. It's always, and it wouldn't have been that way had I not been in the sweat lodge. That was kind of like the breaking point for me, because I started to understand that, in there, you're supposed to pray for other people. You don't ever pray for yourself. You pray for everyone else but you. And the concept is that if you pray for your brother and your brother's family and so on and so forth, and they pray for you, you are being taken care of. And that right there, that concept is a bigger concept than just what happens inside the Anipi, what happens inside that space in the sweat lodge. It it is ever expanding. That philosophy is Hotep itself as well. So, you know, I take from all of those in order to understand myself better.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
love it. So I do want to. We had a troll, which I have
Yeah.
gotten rid of.
We will ignore and disengage. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
I already blocked him, but I do need to answer. First of all, none of
You're gonna
my
engage anyway. All right.
right.
Let's
I'm gonna
go.
engage anyway. It
All
is. So
Breaking news.
yeah, that's right. So so first of all, they had said my slave owning ancestors. One,
Well, no. He wasn't talking to you. He was talking about well, I don't know. Maybe he was. I
yeah,
don't
he
know.
was talking about me.
I'm confused because it's like it could be any. Anyway,
Yeah,
there's
but my ancestors didn't get here till this century, so not a one, not a one owned any peoples, at least that we're aware of. They lived in Germany, to be clear. Number two, I don't claim to practice any kind of African derived religion. I don't. I speak to spirits. Those spirits speaks to me, and they never really cared what color anybody was. It's weird. God doesn't care what color you are. So I needed to, for my own good, to put that out there. But I want to go back to the positive and say
I pray to white Jesus. I'm just here to say that. No, I'm just joking.
but right, but for me, I think what you talked about finding, the truths in other religions, that's something I've done most of my life as well. There's very few religions that I've not looked into and tried to find that common goal. And I really like, one, obviously I like the Hotep stuff. That seems pretty clear. I've made a bunch of friends with y'all. But I think that to encapsulate that, there was a Lutheran church that we used to live near that on their billboard, I think, said it best. And that was, God is too big to be in any one single religion. And I agree with that I think that where you find truth is where you find truth. And I don't limit God. God can speak whatever language you need to hear to bring you to him.
It literally. Like, how can you expect someone on the other side of the world who looks nothing like you to come to someone who looks nothing like them? They need to see themselves in the, and some people don't understand that concept, and it always hurts me when they don't understand that concept. I like, if you're Asian or if you're Indian, do you want to be spoken to by an African god, or do you want to be spoken to by an Asian god or an Indian god? Like, how do you expect, if you're the higher power and you're trying to bring people to you, how do you expect them to come to something they don't recognize? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why I never saw religion so strict, or spirituality even so strict. To me, it's about what you're, and that's why I chose Kemetism, because it's the laws that you're living by, and it's are you producing good enough so that when your spiritual body leaves you, it leaves with a lesson. You don't carry your color into the afterlife.
Right.
You carry the lessons that you've learned. You carry that imprint and what it is left on your higher self. That's what goes to the afterlife, or goes to the next life, or goes to wherever. It's not taking you and all the bullshit you have here with you. It's taking all of the things of worth to either progress your spirit or regress your spirit because you didn't learn those lessons. So that's more important than, it if I'm speaking to my ancestors, I know for a fact that there's probably some crappy ones in there.
Mhm.
And in Igbo spirituality, they say, you know, you don't venerate those ancestors. They exist, but you don't venerate them. You venerate the ones who are good that you know of, right?
Mhm.
And I understand that concept to a greater extent, because if I'm, you know, praying to my ancestors when I was in the sweat lodge, if I'm asking my ancestors things, I'm not asking all of them to show up. Some of them might not want to show up. Some of them might hate me. You know, I'm asking the ones who are there for me to show up.
Right.
You know, the ones who want me to be better. Those are the ones. You know, I'm not asking for a poltergeist. You know what I'm saying? If I got some slave owners, if I have slave owners in my past, I'm not asking for them to give me no advice.
Right.
You know,
Right.
unless they're going to show up and say, don't follow the path, you know, of this or
Right.
that
Right.
I follow. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's when you live your life in a good way, then you end up deterring those spiritual faults, those bad things about your past and about your family, and you attract what's good, because that your spiritual family is here to help you and here to progress you. You made a contract with them before you were born into this world, so it's in their best interest that you fulfill that contract. Even they are going to be like, hold up, Uncle Ruckus, you can't come. You're not allowed to talk to Trey. No, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see that. So, you know,
Sure.
Can you tell him to stop talking to Unc though? I'm just joking.
listen, he might just, you know, I love
I know. I do too. I do too.
I like his
I kid
I
because
like
I
his
care.
take. You know, we are all products of our environment, whether we
Mhm.
consider or not. You know, and it's all right. Yeah, when I go back home, there's like no shoot zones and things like that in my grandma's neighborhood, and I'm just like, man, I can't stand niggas, man. But you know, people, they have to understand where people come from
Mm.
and how their belief system is created.
Mhm.
And it's really hard to change, break down, and reshape your belief system, because it's what carried you so far.
Mhm.
So
It's a
it
survival mechanism in a lot
it's
of
a
ways. Yep.
survival mechanism.
Yeah, if you
Absolutely.
change that on somebody, they're gonna break, like mentally. Like
They're gonna
you can't.
snap.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish you would, you know, have somebody from like the early 1900s, you know, worship something, and then you bring them right now, they'll like they have a manic episode or wouldn't know how to function at all.
Yeah, they're gonna
So
lose it. They're gonna lose it. It's you that and that's why I always think it's important to travel and you know, explore
Mhm. Mhm.
life, because if you want to influence people to good, then that's the best way, is to reach them
Mhm.
through their belief system.
Yeah.
You walk right through there, and then you start to open the pages in their own book and
Mhm.
show them that there are other ways
Mhm.
they are not looking at specifically. You
Mhm.
know, you're not going to reach everybody. I mean,
Mhm.
that's why the conscious community is still debating on Signetter TV to this
Yeah.
very day about which God to follow. You know, you're not going to change everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
important
Well.
is how
Yeah.
good are you in life?
Right. Well, and yeah. So in a lot of ways, yeah. You back to that thing we were talking about at the very beginning about like talking to individual people. The way that you can best impact people and reach them is by meeting them where they are. Doesn't mean you have to leave them there. You know, it doesn't mean you have to tell them like, you know what, this is cool. I like the way you're fucking your whole life up. That's smart. Keep doing it. Like, no, you can, you know, you can try to help them, you know, help them out and everything, but you have to start by reaching into where they are so that you can actually like you can actually help them. Because otherwise, if you just stand outside yelling at them like, "Hey, you're in a hole. You need to get out of there." Like, no, some you might have to like put a ladder down and go down in there and be like, "Hey, you know, we can climb out of here on this ladder right here that I just put down in here."
Right. Well,
It's
I think it's the difference between actually caring and
Mhm.
looking like you care.
Yeah.
Lots of people care that they look like they care. Very few people actually care. You know,
I mean,
and
everybody
Mhm.
everybody like to play the acting role like they care. It's like really understanding the definition between nice and being kind. Like
Yeah.
being nice, you always want. You're like, it's a facade. I'm being nice, so maybe I can get something. Being kind is these are my ways. I'm still a nice individual, but I have my boundaries. Like one word is fluff, and then the other one is actuality.
Nice.
It's like the opposite of the no offense, but
Yeah,
you know, it's like the exact reverse of that.
Hey, no disrespect, but I want you to know your grandma food is terrible. Like, you feel me?
but you said y'all were talking about like God and how God appears to people, or like I think a lot of times like this is more of like a human flaw that we kind of project onto God. Like I think a lot more of that stuff is about human beings trying to put God in their own image, and like that's the way you're most likely to fail to recognize that God made us in his image, and that we are like if we can't see the creator in each other and see that beautiful potential in each other, then and love each other the way that we allegedly love God, then we're going to really struggle. Because if you like I really feel like the people that God puts around us are the people who are there for a reason, because that's who we're supposed to love, and that's how we demonstrate the love that we have for our creator and for ourselves and for you know anyone who came before us or anything like that. It's like how are you going to say you love God and you can't love your wife, you can't love your kids, you can't love, you know, the person who, I mean, we even like people who hurt us. Like there's you look at some of the cultures where there's been like centuries long like wars between like tribes and stuff like that. Some of that stuff gets like repaired almost overnight when when just a couple of people in like leadership roles go and extend the olive branch and say like, we're sorry, we fucked up, and we want to mend this. And then it involves a deep level of like really being about that life, where they're probably going to keep cussing you out and you have to just take it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's because I experience that on a personal level routinely, where I have to just kind of swallow my pride and just say, you know what, like I might not get the response that I want out of this, but what I have to do is I have to lead with my own response.
That's right. That's right. You know, and you know, to go back earlier, you know, when I was out there protesting, one of the things that I had said to people was that I see the God. I said, you guys may hate me for what I believe in, and a lot of you might disagree, but just know that I love you for who you are. And not only that, but I see the God in each and every one of you. And that right there, you know, that is an undervalued concept that, you know, when you start to actually employ that, then you learn what leading actually is, you know, how to be there for people. You know, so some of the worst but best leaders in history, you know, Genghis Khan, or he's a perfect example. Perfect example. You know why that kingdom was so powerful? Because when he took you over, he let you practice your own way still. You just had to pay him money. You know, I don't agree with that part, but he said, I don't want you to change. I just want you to, you know, you are in my kingdom, but you can still be your Christian. You can still practice Christian ways, or you're this way and that way.
That's how
Saladin did the same thing.
Like that was a bullshit form of unification. I'll allow you to do this, that, and the third, because you allow people to continue on their practices. They're not going to be dividing and like fighting. So
exactly,
you know, that's the best way to rule China.
Some of the worst leaders, you know, they like that right there. You know, despite
that tactic, that thought process, and ideology behind a sick fucker like that is great.
And that's how they get so powerful. And that's how they get so powerful. They take a unifying concept, and then they bastardized the concept.
Mm.
You know, he took a unifying concept, just be you,
Mhm.
but be you under me. Well, for me, it was, I was telling people, just be you. I'm not gonna force my way on you. But if you're gonna follow with me, then just know this is how I believe. And so you're either, you know, you can either subscribe to my belief or not. And that created a more powerful group of people until the feds showed up, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the feds bastardized it by saying, you know, this is
course
who
they
he
did.
actually is, and following
Right.
him is, you know, X, Y, and Z. But it really is like, you know, with this month, I want people to understand that, you know, that we're trying to appeal to your better nature, not the nature we think is the best for you. You know, it's, you know, whatever meditation you find right, whatever you consider patience. That's why I always try to say, you know, you may disagree, but this is how I see it. You know, they need to understand that. It's kind of like when you are learning in relationships and they say, you know, practice I feel statements, not you are statements. You know, it's the same exact thing. Hey, baby girl.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
There it is.
Hey.
Say hi.
That's the meaning of it right there.
She doesn't want to talk. She just wants to. Okay. All right, go on now. Go play. Oh, she's just gonna sit here.
Awesome. Well, as we
No, it's our channel. Like it's like you ain't gotta be here and you ain't gotta be on the chat. Whatever your name is, guy down there who just I'm sorry. It's we have apparently this person has
when did we
multiple
get
accounts and
popular?
keeps coming back.
When did we get popular? Like when did the trolls start coming back again?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, it's a good sign, man.
right,
It means
I
we're
guess.
reaching, folks.
There's something about trolls, you know. There, how bad is your life? How bad is your life?
Oh my gosh.
You didn't have anything better to do. Go do something. Go build something.
Man,
Go like
do some
calculate
squats, bro.
something. Go, yeah,
Right.
go
You know what I'm saying?
for
Go
sure.
draw a picture.
go paint.
Whenever,
You know what?
Water your garden. Shit,
I do feel bad for them now. Like for you to derive enjoyment, but to do nothing but just talk shit or something you probably don't even know nothing about. You're like, you know what? This is the day. This fills me with joy. I'm gonna go fuck with them. Like,
what are you doing?
You
right?
came over here to watch us to get mad. Like what?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's a
Like,
wild pastime.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry
for
you
sure.
don't have nothing that fulfills you. That this is what it is right here. You know,
For sure.
that's one like that's why I like the idea of not making a spectacle and engaging with the people who want us to be a certain way, because they just want to bring you down to where they can't get out of. That's really what it is. And sometimes it's a cry for help. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a cry for help. And then like when I made my video about acceptance, some dude, he commented on my video. It was on the TikTok platform. He was like, "Don't you find it a weak trait for a man to want to be appreciated?" And in my head, I was like, how bad is your life that you find that trait?
Right.
How many times has somebody not loved you the way you wanted to be loved, and so now you think that it's weak to be appreciated?
Right.
That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
And back to that's why I said it the way I said it when we were talking about it before, is that it's not about like, please come appreciate me, kind of like the other stuff, like these, you know, this month, where it's like it's about like this external validation of like something where there's like an insecurity that is being attempted to be fulfilled in that, where you got to like make some other people like tell you, hey, it's cool, like I got the flag too, or whatever, all that. Like you got to have other people. Like I don't need other people to put, like you said, if like shit, we got 5 people watching right now. I don't need a whole bunch of people. I just need the people who might gain some inspiration from this to gain some inspiration from this. Right. That's why that being appreciated or being recognized is important. It's not because I want to be recognized and appreciated. I don't care. Like I want to make sure my wife and kids are taken care of and that my boys are being led, and that my daughter is getting an example of what it's like to find a man who can take care of you. That's all I care about. And then I want to hopefully inspire some other young men to see something that's attainable. But yeah, that's it is. It's like it's missing the point that it's not about like you out of a sense of insecurity saying, somebody please appreciate me because nobody appreciates me. But that weakness that is manifested by a person who says it's weak to say you need to be appreciated. It's like, I feel like you would
His mama never
you
gave
would love nothing more than for me to engage with you right now so you can feel better about yourself.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And to me, the craziest part was that I didn't even say you need to be appreciated. The video was about appreciating what you have. I was like, you want to appreciate what blessings and what few things you have in this life, or you'll never understand its value. And he derived, isn't it weak to feel like you need to be so you have nothing that you value in life? Is there nothing
Right.
you appreciate? I was like, if you wake up in this morning and you can't appreciate that, there's that 86-year-old man in my gym, or the 89-year-old man in my gym that I talked about on the grip report today, he appreciates the very fact that he's able to show up to the gym in the morning despite all that he's been through physically. The fact that a man of that age can live 86 years of life and still find the value of making it from home to the gym to do just a little bit should be an indication of what a strong and a man who is ready to accept longevity actually is. Period.
Yeah. That
It's not
little bit.
about anything else.
Yeah, that little bit is huge. I got it. So real quick, I have a little bit of something. So all right, so I'm wearing this shirt. It's ironic. I'm wearing this shirt. It says, "Yes, I do have a beautiful daughter. I also have a gun, a shovel, and an alibi." She's right here. Come here. She came to tell me. She came to tell me bye because she's going back to her, I don't know, to work or her apartment or something like that. Anyway, bye, baby. I love you.
Love you too.
All right. She was like, "Hey, I'm leaving." So I was like, "Oh, well, come on. We're talking about y'all. So let's go. Come on." But no, it's important, Bible. It's important to make sure that the things that you do value, that you are working towards, like making that like a bigger part of what I'm like. What's the point of going through certain processes if you're not fulfilling your values? If you're not actually trying to make the things that you think are important happen or grow, or, right? What's the purpose of doing anything? And I just had to say, I got to shout out Six Book. He said, "Good luck with that don't want to be recognized part there," because I don't know if this has ever happened to y'all. I didn't want this to happen necessarily, but it was really cool that it did. I'm walking out of Walmart a few months back, and somebody's like, "Chad," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, I follow you on Twitter." I was like, "What? Oh my God." He watches the show and everything. So anyway, now he comes on here to rag me about that. Like I still, it's that's not the recognizing that I was talking about. But yeah, I feel like I'll go back to Nicco's thing that he said way back when about privacy and not being recognized in public and everything, and how people try to hide. All the famous people try to hide.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a plane coming back a few weeks ago, and Angel Reese was actually on my flight coming back from Atlanta into Baton Rouge. And man, she had shades on. She was in a hoodie and everything. It was like, and people were like, "You should talk to her." Because I texted a few people. I was like, "Yo, Angel Reese is on my flight." They're like, are you going to talk to her? I'm like, "No. First of all, I'm like almost 50 years old. Second of all, I'm white. Third of all, like she clearly does not want to be talked to."
You'd be all over TikTok.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Crazy white man trying to get all over.
Exactly. No. She's gonna be doing this shit to me. No, I'm not trying to get into that. But no. So like you do see that sort of thing where it's celebrities, they chase after a certain thing, fame and fortune, right? And then they spend the rest of the time trying to avoid it.
Yeah. That's true. And there's one of the maxims of Black Hotep. He talks about how it's a, you know, it's a father who prays for a follower, and it's, you know, a rich man who prays for a family. And the concept is that, you know, is being careful what you know, what you ask for, but also
Mm,
knowing what you really want. You know, if you are a father, you already have and are, you know, you have a follower already in
mhm.
your family and your children. And if you are a rich man, you know, you are also a father. You know, like
Yeah, right.
the concept is so it is an expanding concept, because it really does teach you, you know, how to value the life that you've been given, and what
Hmm.
value there is in that life. You know what I mean? So it's
There's a
like,
reason why you were given it, and
yeah,
you need to be living it out, because a lot of times, like the van story that we were talking about, you know, like you could have, instead of that beautiful little baby girl, you know, you could have been obsessed with that van and that life
right,
and missed a whole bunch of stuff with her, you know.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
I wouldn't have felt this this amazing feeling. You know what I'm
hmm,
saying? It would have been still alien to me. And also just, you know, becoming a father has allowed for me to develop a way to impact others, and that
hmm,
impact might not have made its way there. You know, we were planning to leave so that we could get away from the protest life and all of that life. So I would have just disappeared off the face of the earth, and just been
right.
another, and then just been another, you know, another Hotep on the Hotep's Been Told You show, just sending in super chats. You know what I mean?
Hmm,
And
hmm,
not trying to be an active part of no change. And so the
hmm,
very fact that, you know, we had her, and we were propelled to stay, is also the very thing that is allowed for us to help evolve this, and to
hmm.
actually reach people. So
Beautiful.
I don't need to pray for a follower. I have one, and
Hmm.
she has made me a rich man. You know, she's made
Mm.
me.
There you go.
So
There you
what
go.
is the purpose of needing more?
Hmm.
Oh, that's
Amen.
crazy. Now you put it like that. Like your children are ultimately your followers, and like a real rich man will always have his followers as long as his unit is together.
That's
So
right.
yeah, now that's tough. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And truth. All
Hmm.
Yeah,
right. Well,
I'm the only one that doesn't have a kid here, so you know I don't got any followers.
Yeah, but
I ain't rushing.
you got all
Hey,
those
no,
siblings that you're a
I'm not
good
rushing it.
role
no,
model
no,
for.
no. Remember, you weren't here in the beginning, but I talked about a brother that called into Hotep's show on the Griff Report, and he told him that every man is a father figure to someone else. And so
Hmm.
you got to think you are a walking example to someone. You just, one, you may have never encountered this person.
Oh no, I
Oh no,
already
he encounters them every day. They
know.
live in his
Look, now
house.
that you put it like that, I'm part of 11, and I'm like the second oldest of like the little offspring. So I ran like a little daycare. They all love me. We went to go see Spider-Man the other day. So like I got like little people that I do my best to be a good
So you're a
model.
leader.
Yeah.
The you're a leader, and that's what this month is about. It's about inspiring and creating leaders, whether they are dads or they are dads by, you know, by visual, dads by definition, and dads figuratively. You know, it is inspiring and teaching leadership to
Mhm.
men who are ready to fulfill that purpose, because that's what the purpose actually is.
Um. Pardon
Absolutely.
me. It's a real niggas holiday on the 20th.
We already know.
yep.
Damn, man. Golly.
For sure. He already got his gift from me
Yeah,
like a month ago.
I gotta take care of mine and send it to him. So
Well, Trey, it has been a pleasure having you. And this message, I hope we're going to do what we can to keep it moving. And, you know, it is something the world needs.
hmm.
And so, you know, God has his ways and he'll make what needs to happen happen. And I just want to say thank you. Is there anything you want to plug? Your books and your YouTube and your Twitter are all linked below. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Hey man, just have an amazing strong dad June, man. You know what I'm saying? And just really try to practice growth during this whole time. Learn something this month. Find something new and learn it. It's as simple as that.
Beautiful. All
Y'all go hit
right.
that hashtag. Y'all go hit that hashtag.
Well,
Look at it, and post your pictures too. Like, you know, we want to see people out there doing their thing. I put that little, you know, 4-box together. I'm going to keep doing that and putting new pictures in it and everything, because I want to build like a little thread of that, of where we have all those different, everybody who's posted their pictures and stuff like that is represented in there. It's really cool. So yeah, y'all go do that, and just, yeah, like you said, learn something, be there for someone, and keep growing, and give yourself the grace to fuck up and get off the mat and get back at it again.
Amen. All right. Well, everybody knows what to do from here. Stay free.
Peace, y'all.